Hello everyone, Do-It-Yourself Gourmet back for a nice batch of caramelized onions. Now I've got the pan heating up. Been getting that way for a good couple of minutes now. And I've got ready the ingredients. I've got the olive oil, I've got the onions, I've got some apple cider vinegar for the deglaze instead of white wine. Changes the flavor, sweetens it a little depending on the dish. And now the pan is nice and hot. So I'm going to drop in, about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Put that off to the side in case I happen to need a bit extra. Swirl it around. And that's how you help the oil get hot a little faster, because the more surface area that you're dealing with, the better when it comes to heating things up fast. And now that's going to take another 15 seconds or so. And the olive oil will be right and ready at a good temperature to start caramelizing onions. One of the important things to do in the beginning is get a good seal. And then also to give your onions a good sweat. Because without a good sweat, they're not going to release all their sugars. So we've got this oil up on a nice high flame, and let's dump in the onions. There we go. And we got a little bit of sizzle and sear going. We're going to mix that around, help spread the oil. That way it gets to all the good little bits of the onion. It doesn't just stay in one place more than another. And that is going to keep our heat up and going. Got ourselves a nice little wooden spoon to mix it around, kind of help break up the onion pieces. Not too hard of a poke at it, but just enough to dislodge them a good little bit. And that's what you're going to be doing while the onions start to get themselves arranged in the pan, coated with oil, and to start reacting to the heat. Now you move these around, make sure they get broken up, because when they do, they're going to start each developing their own flavor. And it's not going to be a clumpy mess later on. The earlier you break them up, the better, because that helps the cooking to occur more evenly, instead of as a group in a large lump. And so I'm going to keep mixing this around for just a couple of minutes as I make sure that it's all broken apart. You can take it, toss it around like this a little bit, if you want to get the pieces that are lumpy to the top, and get the other bits broken up. There we go. Now we've got that. They've got a nice oil coat on them. The fire's on high. What we're going to do is put a little bit of a lid over it. And we're going to do that to help them steam a little bit. And we're going to let them do that for about 4 minutes. So we're going to set our timer for 4 minutes and come back when it's time for the next stir. Now we've got, after 4 minutes, we're going to take our first little stir around. Already the steaming has occurred, and we've got a little more flexibility in the onions. We're going to flip them over. Now we won't have any caramelization yet because it hasn't happened long enough, but that's why every 3 minutes or so we're going to come back and check on them until we start to get that caramelized color. Now you only have to keep the lid on for maybe the next 5, 6, 7 minutes. That way they're nice and steamy, and then you can take them off and start caramelizing them. So don't forget to take the lid off after a few minutes once they get to the consistency and texture you like. And from there, you can just start caramelizing the heck out of them. Now we'll meet back when they're all done. And just remember, every 2 minutes or so, give them a shake, give them a flip, make sure they're not burning on the bottom. And now we're about halfway through with the caramelized onions being done. It's been about 4 or 5 minutes. We've turned the heat to a medium high. Let's take it to a medium. As they become more caramelized, you don't want a scorching hot temperature. You want it hot enough to keep the caramel well colored and well textured, but you don't want to be burning onions in the process. So as this comes in, we're going to shake it about, give it a toss around. You can start to see some nice browning that's occurring. It's got a little while left to go. We want to have some good deep caramelization on this batch. And so we'll give it a little more time. Spread it out around the edges. That way we use surface area to our advantage. And we let the deliciousness carry on. This is almost the color we're looking for. just a few more minutes. This is about the 8-9 minute total mark. We're probably going to go to about 12 or 13 minutes before we call this a nice done caramelized set of onions. Now here's where we're also going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, just enough to draw out some of the flavor and to balance a little bit of that beautiful sweetness. Now as you're cooking caramelized onions, it always helps to look for the little bits of onions that are thin-skinned and starting to get a little thinly fried while they're in here. Those ones you want to pick out. They usually end up a little unpleasant and chewy. And now, we've reached the point where we're going to kick the fire back up. We got the glazing of the onions right where we want them. Pop the heat up, deglaze with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Toss on a hint of pepper for what we're doing, and then we're going to call it a day. A little bit of apple cider vinegar, probably about a tablespoon, just to let it deglaze, just to get the flavor right off of the side. Shoot it around, get some of those juices right back onto the onions themselves. Oh yeah, that's how it works. Nice deep caramel color gets pulled from the remaining bits that are around the pan. Turn it off. Let it sit for just a moment. Get ready to serve it. Do it yourself gourmet, folks. Caramelized onions.